Welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. And this episode of the podcast features Kamen Rider Zero-One, episode 18. And here today with me are
Right?
Vashi V.
and Zero.
So, the opening to this episode is that Aruto and Izu are downloading the Humagear's backup into a new body with the explanation that because she wasn't directly hacked by the Zetsumarai's key, they didn't lose the backup this time. So that's kind of their explanation for why all the others before now had to kind of be reset and restarted. How do you feel about that?
Like honestly, it fits and it makes sense. While it does kind of seem like a cheap cop out and just use the plot, like it does make sense. She was not hacked and damaged by the human gear, so her backup should still be fine. Because running off the theory that them hacking it also corrupts the ARC's backup data of it, and not the ARC, Satellite Zea's backup data of it. So it does fit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it does fit. It does also seem a little too simple, but then again, like something else happens later on this episode, which seems a little convenient too. But they both kind of make sense, so I'm gonna let it slide. But it is a little too convenient, but like again, they set up a reason why it should work, so I'm letting it slide.
Do you feel like this has any implications for Izu eventually becoming a Magir?
It like yeah, it does. It sets up the platform for her to be able to be turned. I mean, there's that one hidden person, not necessarily sure their abilities yet. So for onto that route, it could go either way. It's like this sets up it for it to be it it sets up for the hack and the we can get her back. Like this gives us the out to get good Izu back, rather than just having to start from scratch like we would with any other way it was done.
Zero? Z- oh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Um, my mute wasn't working. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like the problem becomes is like, yeah, technically. Okay, here's the thing. Like, if Izu becomes evil, like I feel like we have to kill. Like okay, there's two tropes. One is like her data can't be recovered, in which case she dies, which I'm like, it's unlikely the show's gonna go down that one. Or two is like they still have to blow her up to stop her somehow. Um, at which point like she'll just revert to an earlier version of Izu. So I'm like, well, okay. I mean, not like 100% early, but just like an earlier version than at that point. So like, yeah, it could happen. Like, I feel like it's a little too early for the Izu stuff right now because like there's so much stuff going on. Like it doesn't make sense to play the Izu card right now, so I can't really tell which way that's gonna play out.
Yeah, I feel like with this, it kind of takes away the threat of death for the situation. So even if Aruto is hesitant because he doesn't want to destroy Izu, as long as the backup she has her backup data, she can just be restored into a new body. So is it really that
Right.
big a deal?
It sets up the cop out.
Which
Like it because like the whole point of like these types of things is the stakes of it.
and
Like
Izu
and
is
having her being able to just revert into, for lack of a better term, to yesterday.
right.
It removes the impact of it beyond I just had to kill her once.
And Izu is, an important character on the show. She's one of the central characters. So if she's put in that situation, the stakes should be higher than the baseline. But now, if this is what's happening, then the stakes have been lowered.
Right. It lowers it, and it, like it says, like in the end, it deepens the impact of, oh my god, he's got to kill easy. Because beyond that emotional hesitance of I do physically have to do this. At this point in time, with the way the show's set up now, he doesn't even have to be the one to do it. Because we've got Thousand Island who'll probably try to beat him to it.
Yeah, I
once
mean,
he
like
gets
it's an
done jacking
interesting.
off somebody.
Okay, I'm just guessing that's like a reference to like Kamen Rider Blade because there's like a million references to Blade in this show for some reason. Um, like Zero-One's rider kick is literally Blade's rider kick. Valkyrie's fucking fine. I mean, like rider kick's name is like literally Blade's rider kick's name. Um, like the
So
Jack freaking
for
knife and the sword thing. I'm like, well, that's clearly like king form, except we're not calling it king form.
for
Um,
for me, it's a mixture of that and just
and
bad choice of how to shorten a word.
well, I
Because
feel like it's
truthfully, all that is hijacking. He's hijacking the powers. That's all it is.
well, I was thinking it's more like he's yeah. Well, I thought it's more um like he's just yeah. Basically, he's just hacking into it. So uh jacking in. So like Mega Man EXC style or something. But
Yeah, but that's
I
not
don't
what
know.
we've been saying.
Yeah, I know what the hell you've been saying.
And
But
we're gonna continue to say it.
yeah, yeah. Um, but whenever I hear that, I just think of Mega Man EXE. So for me, it's like, well, that's weird, but I'm like, it's fucking Japanese, so it's fine. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like, holy shit. Like, yeah, that's probably not the best choice of words. As for yeah, this also kind of puts it into this interesting point because like Bowser's an asshole, but like he doesn't kill anyone, right? Like Arto, like the previous three writers have murdered the shit out of everyone, right? Like it's
Well, they're
only because they're
robots.
backups that people don't die fully, right? But like Bowser, every time he kills someone, it's like, well, they have a backup, they'll be fine. Oh, that guy who just got corrupted, he has a driver. He's human, he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I
we're
just
gonna get
knocked
to
him out
that
of
later.
yeah, I just knocked him out of my henchman. I'm like, well, I mean, it makes sense for his character because, like, well, yeah, everything he does is like presented by Zaya. Like, why would he kill people? That would just put his company in a bad, give his company a bad reputation. I mean, which kind of leads me to one thing that's a little questionable in this episode, but otherwise it's a really solid episode. But yeah, it does seem a little too easy right now. I mean, there's like clearly so much shit going on, especially because of what got revealed this episode. Um, yeah, let's get to some of that stuff then.
So, uh, the Tachibana uh, actually cheated in the contest. Uh, he gave Sayuko bad advice by suggesting that one flower that was out of place, and he pointed out threw off the whole thing during the contest. He tricked her, and lied, uh, because he was worried that she actually stood a chance. And even Thouser is like, that's bullshit. I don't want to win like that. We're redoing the contest.
Like, and that's handled very, very well on every part of it, because her, um like accepting the advice because she's studied and understands that he is one of the best, yeah, you would take that advice.
Es-
Him, that human aspect on his side of the, oh shit, I'm supposed to be the best.
Especially since we've. Uh, can you guys hear me? Sorry, my computer froze up for a moment. Uh,
But then you also have Bowser, who, while he is a giant shit dick, he very much understands how fragile a company's image is if it got out that they won the competitions through cheating. His as it does.
okay. Some of that got lost because my computer is having issues.
Okay. Well, the stream was down. Now it's back up.
Yeah,
So
I think it's me.
it's fine. I mean, it says the status is okay. I mean, it only froze for like a second or two, so it should be okay.
But I was gonna say, uh, Sakuyo even got her like knowledge of Ikebana from his family's records because they're the experts. So when he himself was giving her advice, of course she would listen. He clearly
Right,
knows
like it,
better than she does.
right, like it makes logical, make logical sense why he bullshitted, because he had the fear of losing, and understanding his station at that point within that world of, if he lost he would lose face, and wouldn't be as renowned and respected because he lost. You don't want to lose things in Japan, not if you're the best. So it was like it every like the way everyone acted was very true to that society, like Japan society is like, it's very accurate, especially given the fact that by that point he was losing his marbles anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I it kind of annoyed me that like he had to cheat to win, but I'm like, as you said, like because he was under so much pressure, it does make sense he would pull something like this. Um, Also, hooray Tachibana because we had to put Tachibana in a rider show somehow. Um, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's cool. Well, here's the thing, right? Like, it's not even the, oh, you're at the top, you lost. It's because he's at like a very like traditional style stuff. Like saving face is important. It's not because he's at the top. It's because he's the one who lost to the machine, right? So he's representing the whole like field, right? Like he's representing the whole like art form. And like it doesn't matter if he lost to the most perfect machine ever. Everybody who's in the field would be like, "Well, you clearly weren't good enough. You lost to a machine." Right? Like this is a no-win scenario, right?
Like
Even if he
this would like
won, people are like, "So what? You beat a robot. A robot could never beat a human anyway."
it's like this would be like the equivalent of like Usain Bolt losing a foot race to a robot.
Right, exactly. Well, no. Um kind of. But the problem there would be everybody's like, well, of course the robot's going to win. It's not human. But in this scenario, everybody thinks that the human gear is inferior. So they're like, how could you lose? Right? Like, clearly you weren't that good to begin with. Like, even if the robot was the most amazing thing, like the most perfect of perfects, everybody who's not you will be like, well, you fucked up. The robot couldn't have beaten you. You fucked up. Right? Like there's so much ego in these types of situations or like this type of field. Like you can tell, right? Like just this is just like the standard like sew up their own ass like competitive bullshit. It doesn't matter like which like community it is, like you know the type, right? Like they won't accept that like their art form can be replicated and surpassed. So they'll like push down whoever lost, even though the person did their best. So like that's what I said. Like touch, no wonder Tachibana is like fucking losing his shit. Is because like this is a no-win scenario. Like even if he wins, he gains nothing, and if he loses everything. Right? Um. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So over tea, Aruto asked Thouser about like, hey, how come you hate Humagear so much? I thought you liked my grandfather. How did you know him anyways? And then Thouser pulls out a picture of him with Aruto's grandfather 12 years ago, and he looks exactly the same. Naruto's like, what the fuck? You haven't aged. Yeah, Izu scans the guy and it's like, he's 45 years old.
Forever 24. And my counter argument to that is it's Japan, right? Like Greece literally ages backwards, so does TM
Ugh.
Revolution,
I
right? Like those
wish
fuck
I wish you were wrong, but you're not.
right?
Also, right, please put that up on the screen.
Yeah.
The greatest fun on Tumblr for that episode.
Vashi sent me. Actually, I can put
Yeah,
this
you
up
can put
on,
it up. That's what
I
you
actually
put it up on
can.
the stream. Yeah. I'll talk. But in the meantime, right? His whole thing of like, okay, and then he says some other stuff about like, oh, I don't like showing emotions and stuff, and I don't like human touch, uh, and stuff like that. Um, and then like he hasn't aged, right? I'm like, okay, 1,000% confirmed he's a cyborg, right? 1,000% confirmed he was remodeled by Shocker, right? Like no wonder he's so good at the whole like optics game, because like that's what like Shocker is really good at, is like they're like really good at talking and looking like they're doing something else until they reveal themselves, in which case then they like fucking fumble like no tomorrow. But before that, they're pretty good. But like, man, I was not expecting this kind of Showa style tie-in this show. But like the way they fucking are throwing in like all the damn shocker hooks to lead into what, like episode 38 or whatever, when they show up, like it's fucking amazing. What did you guys think?
So can we follow the Shocker plot and have Bowser become a good guy?
Oh, okay. Well, here's the problem with
only
that.
Succeeded once.
Oh right, like Shocker never succeeded once. They have sometimes, but yeah, you're right. Never a writer who's shown up on screen.
The only writer that they succeeded with was Yongo 4, and that was in a bullshit timeline.
Right. Well, technically 3, but like 3 had like super bad regrets. But yeah, you're right. Yongo 4, but that's because he's a robot.
In the end, Sango went good. Because in the end, he fought with the writers to take down Shocker. So yeah, Yongo is the only Shocker Kamen Rider who died a Shocker Kamen Rider.
Right. Well, the thing is, like, the only reason we're saying that is because like Ishinomori didn't want to make the original writer look like the villains, because like the original Kamen Rider is Hopper, like he's the Hopper Kaijin, right? So he should look similar to all the other ones, and he kind of does, but he looks different enough. So that's his own fault. Like realistically, like Shocker has like a 90+% success rate. It's just when they fail super hard, right? And it only takes one.
Well, at least there was one thing Shocker was good at, and that was failing.
Oh man,
Because
this reminds me of this fucking like Doctor Who scene where like the Cybermen and the Daleks are like having a fucking like conversation, and then the damn Daleks start dissing out the Cybermen. It's like, yeah, the Cybermen are superior. Yeah, in only one thing, that is dying. I'm like, oh my god, holy shit,
sassiest little
like
fucking salt scrapers in the
that
world.
that level
So,
of nonsense. I mean, okay, you know
like,
what's really funny? Right? So like Shocker's showing up in this, and they change their names whenever it's a new version of Shocker, right? But the main villains of this are Matsuro Jinrai.net, right? And clearly they're not dead, right? So if they show up, instead of doing the Shocker thing of changing the front, they should change the back. Right? So it's like, oh, it's Matsuro Jinrai. Which one? Japan.
so,
.org.com. Just to run with it.
I
Oh
just
my
had
god.
a funny thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Ride, do you remember what the literal translation for Metsubo Jinrai was?
Thunderclap of extinction.
Hmm. One of those could be considered a very shocking thing.
Oh my god, that's good, dude. Shit, I didn't even think of that.
Like, that is like the dumbest way to tie it in, but it's also great because no one would actually think about it.
Yeah, to be fair, like that is like the level of stupid shit that Shocker would pull, right?
Yeah.
It's so on the nose that like you're like, no, I can't be,
Yeah,
right?
like it's so on the nose. We're all sitting there making fun of it because there's no way this is right. But there's very much a possibility that just because of all of the throwbacks, that it could be essentially that.
So here's the thing, right? Like, okay, this is not the show that wrote Go Rider, but this is the level of nonsense that I expect from Go Rider, right? But that was the show before this,
Well, so
or
what? Here's
or was
the
that
crazy.
Dome?
No, that was Xaid.
Yeah, Go
But
Rider was
like
during exit.
the crazy thing is that Go Rider was written by the Zeo writer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? This is the level of nonsense I expect from like that guy. Um,
Like,
I don't know. Maybe
I
working on
think
Amazon's rubbed off on him because
like
like he wrote the Amazon's movie, well, part of it. X8's writer, I mean.
But
so I will admit, because Ryan and I had seen possible rumor spoilers for this show.
that we're
One of
starting
which
to
was
question. Well, I'm like, I don't think it's real.
I don't think it is because the cyborg aspect of it makes a lot more goddamn sense.
Which is what I think they're doing with Thouser. But go on with your thing first.
But the one that we saw was that it would shift from AI to focus on cloning.
And just have an overall theme of artificial life and not strictly mechanical.
Yeah, I'm thinking what they mean is more like transhumanism instead of cloning. Because like
What's
the cyborg shit would
transhumanism?
make so much more sense then
Ah,
instead of cloning at this point.
yeah, because like, all right, Thouser is all about using technology to improve humanity. That's why he made the Zaya specs. Like it increases your brain's functionality. And I'm wondering if he himself is just straight up a cyborg, and that's why he looks the same as he did 12 years ago.
I mean, maybe they gave him a like biotic body or something. Like I don't know. Maybe they're throwing in like a Shin type thing of like the writer is like grown. Well, I guess that'd be more like the villain of Zio or something, but or Zeto. Um, I don't know. I mean, like technically you could still throw the clone thing, but like there's like way more precedent for Cyborg at this point.
Here's
Right. And
here
that's why I kind of hope that it's just a cyborg.
yeah, here's what I think happened. I think Thouser got into some kind of accident 23 years ago, or 20 yeah, 23 years, 21, whatever, when he was 24. And Aruto's grandfather, Hiden, saved his life through cybernetic technology, making him a cyborg. And that's why he's like pushing so hard on this, because it saved his life, it made him better. He wants everyone to experience this. But he
like
then disagreed. He focused on making the Humagear instead.
right. It's like because and it fits with his mentality of let's evolve the humans beyond where they're at. Like, and the easiest way to do that is cybernetics. Because otherwise, all you do is just create, for lack of a better term, an immortality machine, which doesn't really benefit human life. And because, like, the part of human life that is kind of necessitates advancement in these fields in cybernetics and medical and all that is the fact that life is finite. You take that finite aspect away, the theory is that humanity will stagnate.
See, that's like a really bullshit cop out thing that I hear like a lot. But like my counter argument to that is okay, you have infinite money, infinite time, you don't have to go to work, you can just sit in your house forever. Sit in there for a month. Let's see how long you last. Right? That's basically the thing of like, oh, humanity stagnates. I'm like, fuck that. There's a whole universe
Like,
out there.
like I don't mean stagnate as in
No,
like
no,
we
no.
will all just like stop. I just mean like in terms of like these great advancements that we're making
I don't think so.
primarily because of death is a major factor in a lot of this, especially in the medical field, is because this is the stuff that kills us. So we're
Yeah.
making advancements to stop that,
See,
and
the
they're
prop.
progressing at a more rapid rate than they would in theory, as if nothing could kill us.
Yeah, that's wrong. And here's why. Because you you don't realize the counter argument to that is like we're not actually progressing that fast. And that's because like most of the actual like scientific breakthroughs are locked up by company patents. So realistically, our progress is actually like hyper slowed down because like dumbass corporations like just eat up all the damn graduates and lock up their damn discoveries behind patent walls. So like saying like, oh shit, you have infinite time now to discover shit, and being like, ah, I guess humanity will just like not do medical research. It's kind of dumb because like, great, you can live to be 200 now. Let's say tomorrow somebody discovers that. It's like, yeah, you got hit by a car. Oh well, can't fix your body, buddy. I guess you die. Like, no, of course not. Like, we'll keep discovering shit. It's mostly like it's a it's a very prevalent narrative that like, oh, like end of human life increases like our capacity. Like, yeah, it does because like most people at the bottom don't have access, so they're like, shit, I need to be better or I'm gonna be fucking dead in like 2 years, right? But the problem there becomes is like that's not realistically how the world actually works because like we have the resources to do a lot more. We just waste a lot because like capitalism is a fucking shit system. Anyway, this is getting into like an insane leftist rant, but
Yeah.
but the point is like, yeah, the counter argument of like, oh, humanity will stagnate. Yeah, it's a very prevalent narrative in media because like, what's the alternative? Oh shit, doesn't matter what you do, you die, right? Like nobody wants to put that in their story because, well, it's nihilistic as all hell. Because guess what? It's fucking nihilism, um, right? Like,
Right.
um, and like yeah, you can maybe write a story but that's not interesting or creative, so it's like, well, we're all gonna die because nobody's figured out a solution, so therefore we have to make meaning out of our deaths. It's like for a story that's important, for real life it doesn't mean anything because like real life doesn't have an end goal. right? People will do whatever the fuck they want. Like if you give people more time, it's like, well, shit, I can live to be like 200. Well, maybe I can take that fucking class to learn this thing I wanted to anyway. And that person will then make this small thing will inspire somebody else who has more time, which will like 50 years down the line, oh, think back like, oh, I remember that thing. Maybe it will help me in this project and create something. So like the counter argument of humanity will stagnate. I'm like, no, you just put infinite time on somebody's clock, right? Like, uh, it's not a real counter argument. It's like that argument comes up in media is because we don't have an alternative, right? So like we can't say, well, that sucks, but we all gotta die, so fuck it. I got no answers because like that's boring and sucks ass to hear. So we have to be like, well, if we're all gonna die, at least have meaning in it. At least that's a better sounding narrative from story wise. But like in real life, it's kind of a shit narrative.
So, moving on, Fua confronts Yua about Hirobi. He's reactivated and he wants to know, hey, why did you guys even repair him? Recall that a while back, Yua warned Fua that she might betray him one day. So here comes their big fight as he attempts to put her under arrest for special AI violation law. I said that wrong. Special AI law violation. But Thouser isn't going to allow him to arrest her. So he comes in and kicks Fua's ass.
Because again, all he has to have all the signs that he's the bad guy that everybody's going to ignore.
Hey, at least he intends to take Yua to the top with him and not just dispose of her when he gets what he wants, like what's going on in Sentai right now. In Sentai, sorry.
Hey, as far as we know. Again, because and I'm still holding out hope that things are different, but this is still Toei.
Right. Well, I think what's going to happen is Yua is going to end up betraying him instead.
Right. That's the more obvious pattern, especially with like the distress on her face during all of this. Well, when she's not henching.
Well, I mean, the point is like Yua's too smart to walk away now because like she literally saw her boss kick the well, I mean, I guess she didn't see Zero-One get his ass handed to him, but she'll probably know that that happened. And then she just saw like Fua like eat it pretty much in no time. So it's like, yeah, right. I'm just gonna like betray the guy who just did that. Plus, I know all his secrets, which means I'm like the number one liability. Like I'm fucking dead, right? Like it's so I'm thinking she's definitely waiting. Like I feel like if she gets a power up, that's when she's gonna betray him. Like when that happens, I don't know if that happens, but like yeah, it definitely feels like she's gonna betray. Like yeah, they can always swerve and be like she's not gonna betray him, but like why? Like there's no point in that story. It's boring, right? Like yeah, it's subversive, but I'm like why? She's been a great character all this time. Like there's no reason to end her on such a shitty note, right? Like right, like nobody's interested in like what the fuck Peach from Gaim. Right?
Oh,
Like
yeah, her.
nobody wants another version of her. Like she's good in Go Rider because she finally tells Baron to piss off. Like she did her part. Now it's your turn, kid. Learn to survive on your own, pretty much.
Like the sad thing with her is like I watched all again and then I watched Go Rider and I'm like, who the fuck is she?
Dude, I was so hyped
Like,
when she showed up in
like,
Gaim and she did nothing. I'm like, fuck it, I'm done.
Like, I recognize her,
and
but
then
like I
she-
couldn't tell you her name for the life of me.
Like, and then it got to the point of, oh, everybody here is dead. I'm like, Wait, she died too?
Yeah,
I'm
she
like,
she
she's a
jumped
very
she jumped in but Game spoilers, I guess. She jumped in between Kaito and a bomb.
huh,
That's
don't even
intense.
remember a bomb.
You you don't remember the for real
I
bomb that they made to kill Kaito because they didn't think they could beat him in a fair fight?
Holy shit, they actually did it. Wow, that actually sounds interesting.
literally the sad thing. All I remember is breakdancing for Jesus.
I
Like
mean, that
that.
was
I
like
mean
maybe like
that's
first.
about it. That and Melon Lord and his brother's a pussy who ends up stalker kidnapping guy.
Oh man, like Michi is like the worst because he had so much fucking potential. Like, him and like okay, like
Mm,
Kaito's okay. Kota is fucking boring. Michi had like the most potential in that show, or like even like he became the villain, right? Perfectly fine. Like his story arc had like the most potential in that show of showing like, okay, right, it's because my thing of like Gaim's theme should have been like growing up because like what's the first thing you see in Kota, that Kota do? Right, it's like shit. I gotta go. I don't have time to dance
right.
or hang out with
He
my friends. I gotta go find a job, right?
he works a bunch of
Right.
different part-time jobs that he gets fired from.
Right, exactly. He's Spider-Maning it. And I'm like, okay, good. Theme setter. First thing in your fucking first episode. Like that's what the show should be. It should be about like the next generation. And then Michi is basically like the most he's like set up to have like the most success next generation. Like he's super smart, he's talented, he's nice. His brother. I mean, he's rich, he's connected. His brother is like connected, so like he'll be fine. And then he like falls super hard in the show, and like that should have been an amazing story arc of like a real tragedy of like what his brother's bullshit teachings did. Like it should have been a very like Nito, not Nito. Nigo? No. Who the fuck is.
Who are
Who's
you?
Ixa's main user in 2008 in Kiva?
Kusaka? No, not
Oh, no,
Ixa. Not Kaiser Ixa. That guy. Nago.
Nago.
Nago-san.
Yeah, like you know how Nago starts off like all cocky, and then the more you learn like he's a dumbass,
Yeah.
right? And he's got like way skewed morals, and then he falls super hard, and then he becomes a better character afterwards, right? Michi's character arc should have been like the fall. And like Melon Lord's character arc should have been like, oh shit, I fucked up super hard. That I can't save my brother, but I have to save the future. So him teaming up with Gaim, right? Like it would have been this amazing freaking like almost like Ankh and edgy level of like plot, but nothing. Right? We got like fuck all. It pissed me off so much.
Yeah,
Um
I only remembered his name because of that stupid jersey he made.
Like my
753.
issue, my
Exercise.
issue with Gaim as a whole is
Nago-san.
Nice.
like Gaim as a whole had the Q Ranger issue. It was trying to do the Ryuki thing of let's have a bunch of riders, and this set up for conflict, which started out with the dumbest setup for conflict ever. A retarded dancing battles with Pokemon.
So,
Yeah, I mean to be fair,
But
like
it
it
got
kind
to
of
a
made
point.
sense what they were trying to go for in that setup where it's like hey something like a small competition like blew up into a war, right? Like that's what
Right.
they're
Like
trying to go for.
the idea for it is fantastic. And like honestly, it's like even with that in there, it's like the start of Gaim to me is great.
so
The dancing thing gets a little weird, so does the weird Pokemon battles. But the problem that I feel Gaim ends up having is too many characters
like
that they can't focus enough on them, and half of them are just there to die.
Right, exactly. Like I feel like if you want to watch that like turf war escalating into insanity thing, watch Shibuya 15. Shibuya 15 is so fucking
Yeah,
good.
that is very accurate for that.
What I liked about Gaim was the way the story evolved as it progressed. That the end game is different from how the show started. Uh, but then after watching Build and you guys going like this is what Gaim should have been, I kind of realized they're right. Gaim didn't live up to its own potential because it didn't commit to its own theme.
Right. It's like each arc in it ends up being its own different theme. Because it goes breakdancing to like the turf war shit to all that crap with Yigdish Yigdish roll to hey, wanna be God?
Like that's what I liked about it at first. Is like I liked how like all right, the story progresses as like new things are happening and things are changing all the time. But then on reflection, it's like that show was very inconsistent with itself.
Yeah.
Like I
Like
think the biggest issue with it wasn't so much that it was inconsistent, it was it didn't blend well.
right. I think
Like
that's like the
because a
number
lot
one
of it was
issue.
like they started teasing like you know the Yggdrasil Helheim stuff, like slowly teasing it with like the plants showing up and all that. It's like, and then it's just hard, hard stop. Let's drop this, and now this is a thing. And it did it with each arc. Everything kind of just like dead stopped on whatever the shit that whatever they were really dealing with at the time. Because the start of it, it was the whole turf war shit, and then the Yggdrasil happened, and all the turf war shit just kind of stopped.
Yeah, which is honestly like you could like here's the biggest problem with Gaim is like it's multiple seasons of a show in one season, and two is like it's got so much potential, but they're trying to juggle like two different, like multiple different themes of a show at once. So there's like my one, and then there's like, whatever the fuck the show wants, and then there's like the Ryuki takes, and then there's like so many different things, and like there's just the mythology shit,
At one
right?
point
And
in the
so it's like
show, you
in the show.
have no less than six different factions all competing against each other for nothing.
Yeah, yeah, like that's the number one problem, right? Like it leads to nothing. It just kind of ends. Um, Right, like the worst part is like, okay, here's Gaim's biggest problem. It just fucking needed a rewrite. Right? It's not even so bad that you can like dump it all. It's like, okay, this shit can work. You just need somebody to rewrite the whole fucking thing to make
Yeah,
it flow better.
like it's not a situation that can happen, but Gaim would have benefited from having been written first and then revised before being put into production.
Or even if they would have, instead of just trying to jam like three different ideas together, they just made three different shows. Like the idea
Yeah.
for Gaim, while it works in theory, in practice it's kind of a clusterfuck.
I mean, to be
Because of it.
fair,
Like
like
a
the whole
lot of that
fruit
stuff would have
things.
fit separately.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like Toei and Bandai are really at fault for this because they really forced the fruit thing because like clearly that wasn't going to be a thing. Like there were going to be like bird
Yeah, they're gonna
themed
be
riders or
birds.
something. Right, exactly. And then you have to jam in like fucking breakdancing and fruits into this.
Yeah, like the idea behind Gaim is that like, all right, the writer really liked Ryuki, so he wanted to make Ryuki again. So what he wanted to do was he wanted to make the entire show the tournament arc. Uh, the problem is that like the battle for the golden fruit becomes relevant too far in for you to feel like most of what's happening matters in retrospect. Because like Ryuki,
Right.
you knew what was going on right away. Like like they were competing for to be the sole survivor. Nobody would tell Shinji at first, but like that's what was going on. But in Gaim, like most of the characters don't even know that the golden fruit even exists, save like three for the first half of the show.
Right. And that entire first half of the show is basically one giant, dick measuring contest.
Right, and honestly, like thematically, that's fine because like that's what the show kind of like shows the dumbass escalations. Like, well, you just gave powers to insecure kids with giant egos, right? Like, what did you think? Like, this is like okay. So the whole reason Ryuki happened is because Agito happened, and Agito's ending is like there's gonna be more Agito in the future, and Agito's ending is like that'll be fine. We'll figure it out. It'll be all okay. And then Ryuki's
Or it
like, okay,
won't. No, and God
or
doesn't care anymore.
right, right, Agito, and then Ryuki's like, yeah, no, it's not gonna work out. Right, like assholes with power will fuck shit up. Um, and then like Gaim seemed like it was that, but even more condensed into where it's like, okay, now just give it to teenagers, right? Like hormones and egos. I mean, like, yeah, all the hormones blaring, frail egos, like in fights to the death, right? Like insanity ensues, and like that could have worked. But then like here's the thing, that's an interesting enough plot line to be maybe like half a show or like a full show, but it doesn't get time. It gets like 15 at most, not even. No, like the fucking energy riders show up way before that, so no, it gets maybe like 10. Right? Like, there's no time. Like, no wonder Kaito barely gets any fucking development until like much later.
So back to Zero-One. Sorry we went on that tangent about Gaim for a long time, but that was long overdue. We needed to get that out.
Very much.
So Thouser kicked Fuwa's ass because he's rich, so he's above the law, right?
Okay, see, I was thinking that too, but I'm like, this is like the one problem I kind of have with the episode is like thousands all like protecting my company image. So I'm like, all right, so you don't want to let your subordinate get taken in for questioning and shit. Like, all right, that explains why you showed up, but then you kick his ass and you do nothing, right? I'm like, okay, maybe your reasoning is Fu's got too much of an ego that he's not going to talk and tell people he got his ass kicked. So he's not going to tell anyone anything, right? But then you also bring up that he's super rich. So I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, and plus they also coordinated with AIM, so they already have pull on the inside, higher up somewhere. So like, yeah, you're right. This seems like a problem, but like technically Zaya can worm their way out of it.
Hey,
Anybody
Pixie.
else's stuff?
Hi.
How do you feel about Thouser showing up and just straight up beating up a cop to prevent him from arresting someone?
Well, first off, I don't like Bowser. I can't stand Bowser. He was not very well thought out. I feel like he's like cheat a billion. I don't like that he intervened in the fight. I was really liking the fight between Fua and Yua, especially since Fua kicked Yua's butt. But it's kind of expected because Yua is his little right hand person at the moment. And I really don't like the downturn in her character development. She went from being a strong character to a little mouse falling behind this guy. And I don't think it's right. He just intervened.
You're breaking up.
Yeah.
Oh. So the problem with Yua falling behind is that everyone has gotten their tier 2 power ups except for her.
Well, she has Hornet,
That
but
no,
yeah,
no.
you're
I'm
right.
talking like I'm talking
Mid-season
like
power.
Rabbit, Tank Sparkling. I'm talking your ZO2. Like everyone has that. Even Thouser starts off with that, tier 3 arguably, but Yua is still at tier 1. She's like using the most basic keys at this still.
I mean, honestly, like I liked how she fought this episode, and like she's smart enough. Like it's only because Fu is like an insane maniac, who can like just take punishment like no tomorrow. Because like one, he gets his ass kicked, and then he still manages to win because he's just smart enough to like knock her henshin device away,
Right.
right, and get the upper hand. And then he gets knocked out of his henshin when and Bowser shows up, and then he re-henshins. I'm like, fucking red card, buddy. That's an illegal move. You can't just pull out a
Like
second
and
henshin
like
device.
that's another point is that uh Fua is a much more experienced combatant than Yua is. And this fight is the only one Yua's actually lost. She hasn't lost any of her fights against the Humagear. And
Right.
Fua was still fighting her on par using like an evenly matched progress key, not just going straight for the big guns where he could have just wrecked her.
So
Yeah, that
this
is a
is
good point.
actually technically the second fight she lost
Oh, what did she? What else did she
Yeah,
lose?
because she lost to Metsubo.
to Mitsubo. Yeah, once.
Oh, yeah, that's excusable though.
Yeah, that fight is
Everyone lost
bullshit.
that fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, but like in terms of like one on one, yeah, this is the first fight that she's truly lost. That she has no excuse for
I mean, to be
beyond the
fair,
fact
she.
of difference of physical skill.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, she probably didn't want to like murder the shit out of Fua for doing his job. You know.
Honestly, I thought the fight was gonna escalate a bit, where she goes into Lightning Hornet and he goes into Punching Kong.
Yeah, see, that would have been
I
cool.
have expected that.
Yeah, but
Sorry
then
about
like
that.
Bowser does show up, so
Yeah, that
like
would have been totally cool if it escalated.
yeah, I think like they were trying to show up like how tough Bowser is because like even as busted as he is, he still kind of is not like he's not Kabuto level of like he walks everything off, where he wants to present that he's walking everything off, but like in this episode, you see a couple times that he's like barely holding on to his like total composure. Like yeah, he wouldn't have lost those fights, but like it's not as clean as he's making it look, right? Like like you know the kaijin of this episode, he has a slight hard time with, and like Fua's nonsense, he kind of has a slight hard time dealing with it. Um, as for yeah, you honestly okay, it's annoying that she doesn't have her power up. I don't even know if she's getting one, which is bullshit. But she's a third rider. That's what happens. If she continues to be like level 1 or like the first upgrades only, I hope they just give her all the old keys because I feel like she's smart enough to make like a really good use out of all of them.
Plus, she is a main character on this show and should, get something.
Right. I mean, like she'll probably get a power up in a movie, but I'm like, that's kind of lame. Then again, I mean, I don't know. It depends like what happens because like okay, let's say she breaks away from Zaya and she needs a power up, and then like she's working for Hidan or whatever. Maybe they'll give her a power up. Considering like Satellite Zaya just freaking made a power up item because like yeah, I can just copy and paste, bro. It's already in my memories.
Well, for me, like given the fact that we're, still under 20 episodes, there's a high potential for basically, cause we already know Zero-One's going to get another power up. That's fucking obvious by this point. Fuwa will most likely get one. Like the odds that they won't give one to Yua is unlikely. Because
Uh,
otherwise, all she's gonna do is exist to get her ass kicked.
right, I know. But the
Because
problem is like it's
the level of monsters is raising up.
yeah, I know what
So
you're
you
saying.
gotta raise up. Because I mean, to be fair, it's like with and I will give him credit. They did a good job of it with X-A.
Right, with laser.
Everybody got the steady increase of powers, even if they did the bullshit level 0 shit.
Right. See, that's what I'm thinking. Like normally at this point, like the third rider, okay, one, it's a little bit early, but like clearly that's Thouser. And Thouser is so strong he doesn't need a power up because he's just doing the Liangle shit of like he's so busted he doesn't even need a power up. Um but yeah, it's weird because like Fua, like she clearly deserves a power up. I don't know if Bandai is gonna give it to her, which is fucking bullshit because she deserves it. Then again,
Like
I hope she breaks free and she builds her own power up, just to spite
I
Zaya.
see I see it happening if only due to the quickness at which she was introduced as a writer. Because
Yeah,
they did that whole let's create the team thing, which is what they did with XA. And then like with XA, like they steadily progressed on everybody getting the power up. Because
right.
they
Like
did the whole everybody gets level 2, then everybody gets level 3, then they do the whole level 5 bullshit.
yeah,
And
but have you
then
seen any scans of that?
Actually, I just checked. There's no toy scans for new forms for any rider.
Huh. That's interesting.
So, well, except for I think the Hyper Battle DVD. Yeah,
No, that doesn't count. Okay, that's weird. Like
and
this
that
is
already
way
came
too
out. So
early to
yeah, no.
stop the fucking
to
part.
to anybody who thinks that the Hyper Battle DVDs ever count, please go watch Ghost. For the love of God, go watch Ghost. Or not Ghost. I'm sorry, Zero-One. Or Zeo.
Zio? Yeah.
Yes, go watch Zeos. They have 3 of the monster riders that end up doing the Thriller dance. I'm not kidding.
I was gonna reference like the wizard web things, but I'm like, okay, those are from movies. Where it's like he just runs into Saber from Fate Stay Night because mages. Oh my god, man! Like the fucking web specials were nonsense and they were great.
All right. Welcome
Hello
back,
again.
Pixie.
Sorry about that. Technical issues.
Oh, wait. I found something. Uh, Unsurprisingly, it is a Zero-One toy scan.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Share that with me.
What's that?
It's
Merchandising? No.
it's Metal Cluster Hopper.
Well, okay.
For the love of crap, let me see that.
Okay. It's turning into O's now.
No, it's making me think like it's making me more so think of the hazard trigger stuff.
Huh. That's weird. I mean, you would think like Assault Hopper would be that, but
Yeah, that's
Assault
what I
Hopper's
was
too early.
thinking. That Assault Hopper was like the hazard trigger, but this is feeling like that extra step up.
Okay. I mean, it would depend on like what the hell is going on at that point in the story because like he's pretty fucking busted right now.
Yeah, Fashi, what do you
Um,
think?
Image has not loaded for me yet.
okay. I mean, like I feel like okay, like clearly Yua has to break free. If she does and she makes her own progress key or whatever, I'm totally fine with it being some bullshit level 0 type shit because like fine. Because like your Thouser is clearly way too busted. right? Like she's not gonna fucking work with oh my god, what's the satellite under the sea?
Arc.
The art.
Arc. Yeah, she's clearly not gonna go work with Arc, right? And then like, right, like Hidan doesn't trust her because like she keeps leaking all their info. Um, so like if she builds it herself, I'm totally down with that. Also, it would kind of like set up like, oh shit, like she's the right hand person. Like once the president is out of the way, like she could take over Zaya, maybe. Then again, like it feels like Shocker will show up by that time. Who knows?
So the image has loaded for me, and yeah, I'm getting a middle build vibe from it. Um, there's also another possibility. As unlikely it is as seen as we've been given somebody's name, she could also be the one going around giving out the raid risers.
Uh,
Wait, what? We're getting
okay.
like Fies type shit or
Uh,
Fies the movie?
okay. So
Well, actually, it was in the show. I mean, don't spoil it for anybody else. But am
so
I wrong?
later in this episode, you know that Ichibana, like he turned into the monster that they have to fight, right?
Right.
Uh, so what the character did was she put a belt on him and inserted the one of the keys, and that belt is called
Correct.
the Raid Riser.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I thought it was freaking Jin doing it, but I'm like, is
No,
he?
the character is called Naki. She is the fourth member of Metsubo Jinrai. She is Dat.
Oh, nice. Okay. Wait.
It's like, while a long shot, there is a possibility that that could just be Yui using a pseudonym.
I mean, at least it'll give her more to do, but the problem with that becomes is like it puts her way too deep in the villain category at that point, right? Because like there's no like redemption from that point. Because like she's clearly just doing whatever the fuck Zaya says at that point, right?
This could literally be the just her going, no, I can be a better bad guy than you. You suck.
Right, but it could also just be like Bowser's like, hey, I need a villain to fight, go infect these people. So I'm like, it makes her way like okay, one, she's doing it on her own, in which case she's a bad guy. Two, if she's following Bowser's orders, then she's just a lackey. Either way, I'm not a fan of that, but like, it's a possibility. You're right.
I have a different theory. So we remember in the openings, we've seen an evil Izu. I think Naki is going to be a female human gear who's going to be the evil Izu. She's going to look like Izu but be bad.
I hope not.
I mean, it
I
could
mean, it
happen.
would explain the two Izus we see in the opening. We thought they were just the one and that Izu got turned. But it would be a lot more interesting if it was, in fact, another Humagear.
And let's follow the Bowser still behind all the entirety of Metsubo Jinrai. What an easy way to fuck with Aruto's head.
Yeah, because if she looks like Izu and acts like Izu, not only can she fuck with Aruto and get to him, but she can also slip in and out of Heathen and nobody's going to second guess it.
Well, I mean, it would make sense considering they said that they had other like they could just replace Izu when she got damaged, right? So like they clearly have backup models. And Matsura Jinra has been shown to just jack Hidan tech for their own shit anyway. Especially considering like it doesn't even have to be, it's just a face, right? Like Assassin. right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a possibility. I was thinking more of like just the Poppy thing of like switching sides, but hmm, that is an interesting
That would be
possibility.
interesting if Izu was another sleeper agent.
I mean, then you're kind of just going like full Fies of, oh, you have a smart lady on the evil side. So I'm like, that's cool. Um, I don't know, man. I guess we'll just have to see. Like, there's a lot of possibilities with this character. I hope it's not fucking Yua because that does not do good things for Yua. Um,
I really hope not to. I'm just kind of disappointed with Yua's character at the moment, and I don't really see them playing it as her. That would be too much going on with just one character. I mean, right now, Yua is like a little mouse at the moment. She's lost all of her kick ass.
So Aruto also now has his own assault trigger because Satellite Zeo was able to replicate one for him. Uh, and when he uses Assault Hopper against Thouser to try and stop him from killing Ichibana, it stands a much better chance, actually. I think that if he was fighting more seriously, it could have gone more in his favor.
Like I think on that is like if it was more of a one-on-one fight, then yeah, he would have held more ground. He's still outclassed by Thouser, but not by much. Like it would have made it a lot more of a fair fight, which would have relied on Thousand Island, jacking off Aruto a little more.
I mean,
It's never going to get old, Zero. Get used to it.
it's fine. I was gonna say more like, honestly, like that's a really interesting fight with Bowser because he's like clearly, basically dominating everything, but he's having like you can tell that he's like just barely holding it together, but still managing to play cool, right? Like,
Well, that's because his composure's at 999%.
yeah, yeah, you gotta overclock for that final 1%, huh?
I mean, he's not God yet. We still gotta wait to see God Bowser.
Yeah, but then he's got to die, come back, reprogram a bunch of progress keys, steal Aruto's power. I mean, it's a whole thing. If you're gonna go evil God CEO, I mean, learn from the best.
Oh, you're talking about
He's talking about Dad.
Yes,
Die,
take
come
that
back.
I take that
Sorry,
to
for the
Kurosawa.
longest time, I'm like, oh, he has to die and come back and become God. I'm thinking of like Guy. I'm like, when the fuck did Kota do all this shit?
Nah, but like Q,
yeah,
like
Dad.
Thouser
Dad.
just like walking into a room, plopping down his briefcase, clicks it open, and a bunch of gray beta tested progress keys are inside.
Oh, dude, is he also using a computer that's not plugged in or turned on? Oh, God. That's never gonna get old.
No, it's not.
It's like what happened to Laser? He's powering the PC.
So that was graphite.
Oh, that was graphite. Yeah, you're right.
That was graphite.
Yeah.
Laser was stuck in a video game and didn't want to come back,
Uh,
and then got mad that he didn't get brought back. God, the fucking Go Rider special was.
Pixie, we had a lot to laugh about with X8.
oh my God.
I know, I'm sorry I missed it, but we just finished X-Aid, like, actually finished it. So that's why I'm like, it's X-Aid!
And on that note, is like I will point out that every time that the computer was unplugged, I'm just gonna go, computer's unplugged, computer's unplugged, computer's unplugged.
He drove me nuts with that, so I just started going, oh look, it's the hospital again, oh look, it's that field again.
Oh well, you could do that with any
Oh,
Rider
really?
Sentai. Whew.
Oh, you've caught on to the great game of Toei Tokusatsu Productions. Oh, where have I seen this shot before? This location before?
Hey, look,
Oh,
it's
look,
that
it's that
winding
parking lot from
street.
every Toei
Like,
parking lot.
for example, everybody here's watched Real Soldier, except maybe Zero.
I've seen some of it.
And me.
But the Real Soldier episode. Hey, Rye, where did that fight take place?
The yesterday one we talked about.
Yes.
Wait, was it the
same
crater
place
area?
Dan died. No, the same
Oh,
place Kitty and Dan died.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Because it's at the bottom of that goddamn hill.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this freaking parking lot's in so much shit, man. Like, and it's not even new. It goes back so long. Like, so many shows have had this. I'm betting this is like fucking Toei's parking lot at this point. Like, it goes back into fucking Ryuki.
It probably is. Like, employees show up and they're like, "Oh, they're filming. Let's just walk around this."
Right. Right.
Like,
Oh my
you've
god.
got the winding
Same thing I guess as a
street.
doctor
You've
did
got
it.
Oh,
the
the
audit.
hill.
Yeah, the
You
hill.
mean the hill from Akiba Ranger?
Well, that's the hill. That's the hill. At the bottom of that hill is where Kitty and Dan died.
That's
That's the bottom of that hill. It empties out into that alley.
there's Time Ranger. God, what it was in Lupat.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous, I guess, Sentai location. Not that much in Rider. Rider has a lot more other shit. Like
You've got the underpass,
yeah.
the bridge.
the bridge, the underpass. Yep.
The
Oh,
top
man.
of the
God.
hospital.
Oh, that park in front of the like.
The auditorium.
Yeah, the auditorium and like the freaking park from like that's been in everything like Wizard, Amazons, it's Zeo, X8, like fuck it.
That hill that overlooks the city.
Oh jeez, yeah, that thing's in everything. All right, it's in
The
like
rooftop.
And
Ultraman.
then you
Sorry.
also have the amphitheater.
Yep. Oh, from the other
That
side.
has
Yeah,
been
that's
used-
true. That's in
That has been
Kabuto.
used since fucking goddamn Zoo Ranger. Because it's the
Oh,
same
gee.
amphitheater they fight King Sphinx in.
Wow. Damn.
So yeah,
Um,
the one that was just in Real Soldier, that was in that every fucking they for some reason they always end up at.
So, anyways, now that we've gone way down the rabbit hole,
So Thouser defeats the monster, and Ichibana is perfectly fine. There were no repercussions from getting turned into the monster, and that bothers me that there was no consequence.
To the point that he has no idea what has happened.
Yeah. So
yeah, like
maybe-
all he had was amnesia. He had no clue he went into a monster and attacked it.
Right. I mean, but that's a pretty common trope. Like, if Yua is the one behind all this, it would kind of make sense. Because then Thousands like, of course, I would attack the monster and protect people. Like, there is no threat to the human inside.
And like
Besides, he's not going to remember anything.
you have Double, you have Forza, you've got all these series where like, all right, the human turns into the monster and they walk away fine. The reason why it bothers me here is because I choose to believe that Naki is another Humagear that's just been inactive this whole time, and she's finally making her move. And this is a war against the humans. It would make sense that, like, hey, this shit doesn't just reverse easily. So I would like there to be
Yeah.
actual
true.
consequence to this.
Like it adds a little bit more precedence to it being Yua behind all this in some fashion. Because
I mean,
with them being with the fact that it doesn't hurt the humans in the long run, it kind of makes it a little less pressing to deal with.
I'm with Rye on this one because
Which would give her more room to maneuver and do her shit. It's like, but again, the odds of that are very slim.
I mean,
But
we
like
see
using the
more impact on Fuo when he uses Assault Wolf than we do with a regular citizen turning into a monster.
it's like we got Hirobi and Jin infecting the human gear, and we saw what the consequence of that was. And so now the fourth and final member of Metsubo Jinrai steps in, and like all of their names are like the kanji, and so the last one remaining is Death. So it's like, okay, Death herself is walking in, and what's she doing? She's turning humans into the monsters. I feel like there should be more to that than just
right.
forgetting
And
that you were the
I
monster.
fully agree with you because because like I said, the odds that this is fluid slim to none. So the only thing in theory that it should be is another humor gear. And you were absolutely right. There should be some type of consequences to the humans becoming, considering the fact that there were consequences to the humor gear. You know, they're friends.
I mean, it depends on what they're trying to accomplish because maybe it's that maybe the belts were built for humans, so therefore it works. Like it's a Phys thing where it's like, oh, the belts were built for Orphanox, so like it works better when they wear it, right? So in this case, maybe the belts were built to be on humans, so she's doing the Zio thing of like, oh,
These
we
are a
want the
different
new
belt
king to
than what
rule
was being used on
humanity
the
or whatever.
Humagear.
Sorry, what?
These are a different belt than what was being used to infect the Humagear.
To me, at
Yeah,
least, this looks more like a cheap knockoff version of the Shot Riser.
fair enough. I mean, but like the explanation could just be that like humans are better suited to using this tech, like the keys. So she's just looking for the perfect human rider to use as muscle. I don't know.
But in the end, next week's episode is round. Oh wait, no. The finishing for
We
round
gotta
one.
finish the contest.
They redo the contest, and it looks like it was some kind of coral reef theme because that's what I get when I look at both of their pieces, and Ichibana absolutely deserves this win this time.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
like fully it was like hers kind of was meh. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't as it didn't have that wow factor.
Yeah, hers is one that I'd be more likely to hang in my home, like for guests to see, but the other one, like that is the clear winner.
Exactly, and that's what I was sending Vashi in a message at 3 a.m. this morning when I finished watching the episode. Was that in this go around, it's very obvious that Takibana won it and the Humagear lost because her piece looked like just a regular flower arrangement, while his was like a piece of art. He had a lot more color, a lot more movement, and it all was beautiful and cohesive together. Whereas hers was still good and beautiful, but it was just like a flower arrangement you could go by.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, it's a it's a nice ending where it's like Tachibana gets the win, even though he was kind of the bad guy for the episode, because it's showing that like what the human gear said was right, where it's like this art's the reflection of your heart, pretty much. So it's like be better instead of being jealous. You'll do better. So that's kind of what it ended up being, which is it's a nice way of tying it in. Generally, in stories like this, you would have had him lose because the bad guys always lose. But like this makes more sense because he is a master at his craft, right? So like it makes sense why he won. Um, so yeah, that was a nice ending anyway.
And it was also nice to see that him and the Humagear ended this on a better note and understanding of each other. They were both friendly and respectful to each other at the end of this contest.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting though? It's like the glasses barely come into play in this episode, right?
Yeah, like you saw it for one moment when he analyzed hers, and that was it.
Uh, so
I mean,
next,
especially considering. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Vashi.
Sorry about that. My mic's going wonky.
Okay, Zero.
Yeah. Vashi. What do you know? Anyway. Man, this is not working right now. Anyway, right. Finish what
Okay,
you were gonna say.
so next week we get to round two, which is a salesman contest. They're both going to try and sell a house. And I am more excited for this than I am any of the Monster of the Week stuff. Like, this is what I like early era Rider for. Like, the whole drama aspect of it.
I mean,
I
as long
just
as we don't bring Yui over, I think we'll be fine. But then again, like, freaking, if like the three main writers from Ryuki show up to sell your house, go.
Uh, Final thoughts on the episode? Pixie?
I thought this was a much better episode than what we've had the last few times. It just had so much in it and so much going on for it. Like, I truly was upset that I was going to miss out on the podcast because I was like, this is the one I want to be a part of. Because there's just so much in this episode. I thought it was a great episode. It added a lot more to the plot and the story. And I can't wait to see next week's episode to see how the heck we're going to have a human gear versus a human real estate agent.
I know it's such. This is gonna be great. Um, I mean, unless Frieza shows up, I don't think they're gonna top it because Frieza's basically an evil real estate person. Um,
Or
well,
Beerus.
well, no, that is what happened is like there was like a really bad fucking crash in or well almost crash in Japan with the real estate market. And so Frieza is based on like the most bloodthirsty piece of shit person Toriyama could think of, which was just an evil fucking real estate like property. Basically somebody who is manipulating like property values and shit, and that's basically what Frieza does. Um. Anyway, we didn't ask you though about this whole look. I mean, Forever 24, Mr. Idol President. What did you think of what's going on with him?
I'm not 100% sure what's going on with him. And it was kind of funny because I was listening to the podcast while I was working. And I so badly wanted to jump in while y'all were discussing that. But he's either, I can't figure out if he's completely human or cybernetic, like y'all were talking about. Because his face doesn't really emote much like we see with the Humagears. So it leads me to think that either he's had way too much Botox or he's partly cybernetic. He's maybe not a complete Humagear, but partly one. And we do know that Daybreak did happen so many years ago. And he was working with Hedon's grandfather, so it's very likely he could have gotten injured in that and they used cybernetics or something.
And like it would still be valid, is like because it would have been only been a handful of years between 20, when the picture was taken versus Daybreak Town.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering
we all know Japan ages slowly.
Actually, he said the picture was taken
12
12 years ago, which is what Daybreak Town happened. So that was like before that the incident occurred.
Right. we do have to remember he did upload all the messed up data
Right. So
into.
that picture was
Yeah,
probably them like, "Hey, we built the satellite together."
right.
And then he
But
goes
what
off and
I'm
gets
saying is
the
like if he was taken over or a sleeper agent for Shocker, maybe Shocker made him program that into the arc. So he might have had an accident before Daybreak Town.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that he claims to be 24, but well, he said he's forever 24, but he's actually 45. That picture was taken 12 years ago. There's a 9-year discrepancy. His incident occurred 21 years ago.
there's various things that have happened, like, and like tons of speculations. Like, I feel we need a lot more information than what we have. I honestly would absolutely love if all of this just led to Shocker coming back. As much as I fucking hate Shocker, at least this would feel legit. But yeah, it's like overall, like, this episode was fantastic. It made me kind of hate Thousand Island a little more, but I'm glad this arc itself is ramping the way it feels natural and progressive, despite him being a cheating fuckstick.
Well, here's the thing, like, Hidan Industries, like old president, like Arto's grandfather, like, okay, he built this whole company of like AI and robotics, right? Which means he has a cybernetic background. Um, like, there's no, like, here's the thing. Zaya's president could have either one worked with his grandfather back when, like, maybe Arto's grandfather worked for Shocker, or two, Arto's grandfather was the one who saved his life, which means he did his cybernetic operation, which means he might have been somehow connected with Shocker. Um, so it's gonna be interesting once we figure out what the hell old grandpa was up to. As for this episode, though, really freaking solid. Yeah, like this is definitely an episode worth talking about. And yes, we did get a couple more subs recently, so thanks for all that, everyone. And if you have any thoughts about this episode, leave it in the comments. We'll talk about it next episode. Go ahead, Rye.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back next Tuesday for more Ryu Soldier. Things are getting really interesting in that show. And then next Wednesday for more Kamen Rider Zero-One. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Rashi.
Oh, bye.
Yeah.
I
Thanks for
forgot
joining
that
us,
I did
everyone.
do that.